A pivotal moment up on Capitol Hill as Hunter Biden faces off with Republicans behind closed doors. They're questioning the president's son as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father after months and months of tense negotiations and some key concessions. Let's go to CNN's chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reach. She's up on Capitol Hill for us. Paula, so what's the latest? What are you hearing?
Well, Wolf, Hunter has been in the room for a little over an hour now, and he did not answer questions as he headed into this closed-door deposition. But we do have a copy of the opening statement that he was going to give to lawmakers to lay out what he hopes to achieve today. He said in part, "I am here today to provide the committees with the one uncontestable fact that should end the false premise of this inquiry. I did not involve my father in my business. Not while I was a practicing lawyer, not in my investments or transactions, domestic or international, not even as a board member, and not as an artist. Never." He goes on to say, "For more than a year, your committees have hunted me in your partisan political pursuit of my dad. You have trafficked in innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, all the while ignoring the clear and convincing evidence staring you in the face. You do not have evidence to support the baseless and MAGA-motivated conspiracies about my father because there isn't any." Now, we know that Hunter, along with his lawyers, Abbe Lowell and Kevin Morris, they have taken a much more aggressive approach to Republicans, to his detractors. So I think some of that is going to come through today. But this is make or break for GOP lawmakers who so far have not provided clear evidence to support the allegation that President Biden benefited from his son's foreign business dealings. And of course, he's only appearing for this closed-door deposition after a few concessions from Republicans, including that this will not be videotaped and the transcript will be released promptly. Those are things we haven't necessarily seen for other witnesses in this investigation. But Wolf, let's just give you a sense of just how much interest there is in today's deposition. They had to move to a larger room, and we expect a record number of members to participate, but more members means more questions, which means it could be a pretty late night up here on Capitol Hill.
When we went into today's transcribed interview with Hunter Biden, we had a dozen witnesses who had told us that Joe Biden was not involved in any way in Hunter's business, that he did not profit from Hunter's business, and that he rendered no official favors or benefits to Hunter's business. And nothing that we've heard from Hunter Biden has changed that in any way. In fact, he has emphatically and repeatedly underscored to the Republicans that his father was not involved in any way in his businesses, did not profit from his businesses, and Hunter neither asked him for any official favors nor received any official favors from Joe Biden. So what we saw, I think, was a rather embarrassing spectacle where the Republicans continued to belabor completely trivial points. They seemed to be obsessively focused on speakerphones and use of speakerphone. I did not know that that was the devil's technology, but apparently it is. I believe, based on this first hour, that this whole thing really has been a tremendous waste of our legislative time and the people's resources. But I would love to have each of my colleagues come up and share their sense of what we just witnessed. And we'll start with the Vice Ranking Member of the Oversight Committee, and then we'll go to
Sure thing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ranking Member Raskin. I think the Ranking Member stated it completely. What we just witnessed over the last hour was, I think, a deep-sea fishing expedition, because the Republican case has completely fallen apart over the last several weeks. After it's been exposed that the critical, one of their most key pieces of information was based on a source that was in communication with Russian intelligence, they are now trying to scramble to find anything to substantiate their fairy tale, is what we should call this. But I think more disturbingly, what we are seeing is just a complete and inappropriate expedition into the president's son. And for matters and subjects that are completely unrelated to an impeachment investigation. And I think it is extremely disturbing to see the lack of professionalism, the lack of grounding, and the abuse of public resources and abuse of public power in order to pursue something that truly, whose point at this juncture is very unclear. And with that, I hand it back.
Mr. Swalwell, the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you. They've got nothing. That's what we just witnessed for the last hour. One of their witnesses has been indicted for working with Russian intelligence. Another witness has been indicted for working with Chinese intelligence. Another witness is serving a 14-year felony sentence. This is 4th and 20 on their own 10, and they don't have Patrick Mahomes. You're going to see the greatest sack ever when you get the transcript from this. But what's really embarrassing, and I use the word secondhand embarrassment because that's what we witnessed in there, is they're so desperate to humiliate the president that they started asking the president's son personal details about a divorce that happened almost 10 years ago. That's where this has been reduced to. And they're doing all this, by the way, when we're just days away from the government shutting down. We're critically in need of funding for Ukraine, the humanitarian crisis over in the Middle East, and more security and a broader immigration plan in this country. They're wasting time, squandering an opportunity to do that because they've never accepted Joe Biden as the president. And now, in this last Hail Mary effort, they're going to try and pull off something. I promise you, past this prologue, it's not going to work.
All right, let's go back to the oversight side. Dan Goldman.
Sure, I'll be brief. I want to be very clear. That first hour of this much anticipated testimony was the nail in the coffin to what is a complete bogus and sham impeachment inquiry. Not only were they unable to show any connection between Hunter Biden's business and President Biden, but Hunter Biden gave very detailed and clear explanations as to what his arm's length business transactions were with private parties in foreign countries who are investors and business people, like many people would have. He went through a laundry list of board seats and jobs that he has had over his 30-year career after he left Yale Law School, and he withstood some inappropriate attacks even in the first hour. So it is not simply there's no connection to the president, which we've known all along and which was made clear again, but there is a very understandable, coherent business explanation for every single thing that they asked for.